Okay, so this will be a little bit hard to see, but what I did was I took the nut and I JB welded it down inside there. And I just poured the JB weld in. It actually covered up the whole nut. I tried to get it around just around the sides, but it's so tight in there, it didn't work. Let that dry good for a few days, and then probably don't have to let it dry that much. Then just drilled it out with a drill bit that was just barely small to fit down those threads, just to slide down, not enough to cut the threads of the nut. And then went ahead and drilled right through the JB weld. Of course, it drilled through real easily. And now I'm just taking this, metric grade 8 bolt, and instead of running my tap down it, I'm just running this down it, and it's cutting threads just fine. I just did it in this one. Now I'm going to run this down this one and just go ahead and cut the thread so it goes all the way in, and then I'll have the full length bolts. And I just got a few different sizes. I didn't know exactly what size I'd need, but I just got a few different sizes to use. So, made a change to my last plan. We put this Harbor Freight roof rack on top of this 4Runner, and it's like $60, I think. It's a universal mount. It mounts right here to these cross members, so it's super easy to put on. And so what I wanted to do was be able to leave the roof rack on and then be able to put this on as needed, the River Quiver. So what I did was I just mount it to the back here, and this makes it super easy, the setup I'm doing, because you can get to these easily with the impact wrench, the 1/4 inch impact driver, and just run the bolts on and off, or electric screwdriver, whatever you're going to use. Okay, so let me slide it forward and let's look at the front here. This one didn't fit because this shroud, or this deflector here, actually was about this wide. So I cut off about an inch of it, 3/4 inch to an inch, I can't remember exactly, I didn't measure it, just so this would fit vertically. Okay, otherwise this piece, when it stuck out over here, pushed this piece over too far this way so that it was sitting on this angle. So I just cut this off a little bit. We drove it yesterday with this thing off, and it is super, super noisy. The wind going over this metal frame here is just, it sounds like you have mudders on your car, and we don't have mudders on this 4Runner, obviously, so it's super noisy. So you definitely want this on here. So anyway, I just cut some off, shortened it. It's aluminum, it cuts real easy, and then mounted this right here. Now I could have mounted this up here and gotten away with it, but then it's going to stand up a lot taller. And so I wanted to keep it as low profile as possible. So that's where those are. Again, what I did was I took the existing nuts for that little T-nut that goes on the top here. I took the existing nut and I set it inside here. I screwed the T-nut onto it and tightened it down to where the T-nut was flat here, and the nut, so that kept the nut square inside, and then just poured JB weld all around it. And what that did was that locked that nut in place, so that nut's perfectly square with the top here, or true with the top here, and then, or flush, I don't know what I'm trying to say. And then I took the T-nut out, and now I can run a full bolt in, straight in, okay? Then what I did was I went ahead and set these in place where I thought I needed them. I set the River Quiver up here, the lower part of it, and just made sure it was level. I marked the parts under the River Quiver. And the cool part is, so yeah, I had to drill 2 more holes. Here's the holes for the Harbor Freight mount, okay? So further toward the back, here's the hole for the Harbor Freight mount, Harbor Freight roof rack mount, further toward the front, okay? So we're talking, it's not, it's about 6 inches there, and it's about 6 inches there. So, or maybe 4 inches in the back there. So that's the cool part, is I get a little bit more support, about 1 foot more of support. Originally, I had these racks maxed out to the front and to the rear, and when I had the roof, or the River Quiver mounted just to these, you can see how much shorter the span was, or the support was. So I'm a little happier with this setup, actually, just because it's a little bit wider. Cool. So then I went ahead and drilled holes. And I hated that I had to drill more holes, but I don't think it's going to affect it structurally. I'm not worried about that at all. So here's the old T-nuts that came out. I just took these down to the hardware store, matched the threads up, matched the pitch up. And honestly, I can't remember. I think I settled with a metric one, and I can't remember which metric thread it was. It seems like I could get a SA thread pretty close, and the diameter was pretty close, but I think I ended up settling on, oh yeah, it's 8.8, so that's metric. So this is a grade 8, or a grade, whatever, grade 8 bolt in metric size. It's kind of small, but it is graded hardware, so I'm happier with that because it's super strong. And we'll just put a washer on it and set this up on top, and then drop this down, and hopefully it'll all line up like my evil plan. And you can see how much it sticks out down there. Now I got 4 different sizes of bolts because I didn't know what I wanted, and I forgot to measure it when I went to the hardware store. So these are 80 millimeters from here to here. I'm not left-handed. So it's 80 millimeters from there to there. Okay, that's how long these are. That's the ones I'm going to choose. I'm going to try them out. We'll see if they work. What this looks like. And I've wondered about just taking these off and leaving these off, just to keep the sun from breaking it down. Because we'll probably use this 2 or 3 times a year, maybe 4 times. I don't know, a few times a year is my guess. Not a bunch, but I could take them off and put it on right here just as easily, and take them off just as easily. So yeah, pretty happy with this. Okay, so here's what it looks like. I set it up there. I just hand threaded the bolts in, and there is still some lock nut tension on those lock nuts, on the nylon lock nuts. So I couldn't thread it in very far by hand, but we'll just use a little impact here and see how it does here. I don't want to crank on it, but I want it seated, so that feels pretty good. Okay, let's slide up here to the next one. They lined up well, so I'm happy with that. There we go. Oh, yeah, that is solid. Oh, I like that. Okay, so I have much more support as far as the length goes. It runs kind of right down the inner edge of this rail right here. And yeah, I'm super happy with that. Is going to come off so easy. I mean, seriously, that's going to come off super easy. 2 bolts, it'll come off. And then I'm probably going to just hang some racks up here from the ceiling that I can just lift it up. It's super light, so I'll just lift it up there and hang it up there. And I think I talked about in the last video about, because it's easier for me to take on and off, it might be easier for a thief to take on and off. And I think that's probably true, but also I think even with the old, or the original design that the manufacturer made it with the T-nuts here, yeah, they would have to bring a wrench and they'd have to sit here for 10 minutes like I would do, and take the bolts off. But I'm not a thief, but I'm just saying, I would think they would look at it like, what's the easiest way to get that off? And it's not that thing right there, it's a Sawzall. And a Sawzall with a blade on it is going to cut right through this plastic and just go and right there, and they're going to walk away with it. So, and there go your $1,000 fly rods. So either way, I mean, I'd rather have it more convenient for me because I'm going to use it more, and if it gets stolen, it gets stolen. I mean, it's going to get stolen anyway if somebody's bent on taking it. So I don't feel like this is less safe necessarily, but it feels super solid. I mean, I'm shaking the whole car, and the rack is not rocking at all. So let's get the front on and just see what it looks like. Okay. So obviously it sticks up a little bit higher on the Harbor Freight roof rack than it would have off of the regular cross members of the 4Runner, the factory cross members of the 4Runner there. And I don't know, I'm not too worried. It might be like a inch and a half. So, okay. And I was just thinking, I hate drilling holes in my thing here, but the manufacturer drilled holes right here and right here to support the front, which is pretty light. I mean, this whole thing's pretty light. Now, it does wiggle a little bit, which it wiggled before, but it may be a little hard to tell, but actually the wiggling is actually coming from the flex in the cross member that's existing on the 4Runner. So that was actually there before. You can see it wiggle just a little bit when I bounce it. So, and I can't hold my hand still enough while I'm wiggling it. So see the cross member flex. So that's already there. So I don't think that this is mounting it to this roof rack is causing a problem as far as that goes. Okay, cool. Now, one thing you want to make sure that you check before you mark this and drill it, if you're going to do this. Obviously, you're taking all this risk just like I am. If this comes flying off my car, I'm responsible for it. So, and you can see that still clears the back. So I'm happy with that. And I can't push it up any higher because if your struts are worn out and you can push it up higher, then it might actually contact it someday. But I'm pushing up on it right now, and this is a pretty new car, so the struts are still in good shape. Okay, good. All right. I'm pretty dang happy with that. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to see just how long it takes to get this off. 10 millimeter. Now here's where it gets front heavy, so you want to keep your hand on the back. All right, now let's put it on and just see how long it takes to put on. Let's go fishing.